Something unusual just happened. I got a thunderstorm and a rain shower. It was pretty heavy. Our temperature was 39 degrees for most of the day, and that of course creates thunderstorms. Looks pretty impressive. And the downpour was very nice. Definitely helps the irrigation. Let's have a look what we can see, and I can show you also a few other things. This area here is always wet, but mostly from the irrigation. The idea here is to put some seed down, but first I need to level this and then install these reinforcements for lawn, so that we can drive over it. But this is not a high priority thing, so for the moment it can do whatever it wants to do. We cannot drive over it or else we will sink in. This is extremely moist, which is good, but eventually that needs to be done. And here on the other side, I finally got around to do this. This is the early stage of this, and it's a temporary thing. Eventually there will be a fence there, an industrial type fence, and then this becomes the real thing. But I expect this to be here like this for quite some time. Let me explain you what it is. So here on the right side, this is the water line that comes from the water tower. So it's a gravity-fed system. The shut-off valve there is so that we can work on the other parts without getting wet. Then there is enough space to add more things, and 3 of the things to add are already there. So you see at the end there is an outlet to connect a hose or simply get some water out from the tap. The thing to the left goes to the pigs and to the chicken, and now that I have the shut-off valve here to the right, I can actually remove this valve there, because I can turn it off from the right, because it's a continuous thing and there are more shut-off valves on the other side, so I don't need this there anymore. And the other, this is the drip irrigation for the planting box that we have here. So let me take you over to that, and you see this lemon tree hopefully comes around and will not die on us. So here you see this. So there are 4 lines and it's dripping and keeps this pretty moist, so that the potatoes, the basil, the tomatoes there, and the radish and the chive and the garlic and the onions will all get proper moisture. We had a different type of drip irrigation before, but it turns out that it wasn't enough, and this is much better. Here we are in the middle of building a new fence, so that we get an animal lane back and also have control over the terrain there to the right in order to plant more trees. And I should mention this again, Paulownia trees are to be planted during summer. These trees need heat, and during autumn, winter and spring, the heat isn't there. So all other trees, they are supposed to be planted during autumn or spring. Spring, for northerners, is of course the planting time, because before there's snow. Here there is no snow, so we can plant the other trees in autumn and spring. But Paulownia trees are to be planted during summer. Mid-August is the latest moment, because they need time to establish themselves before it gets cold. So to make this very clear, those are summer trees, they need 35 degrees. The idea of this fence is that it provides to the left the animal lane, likely for pigs, and to the right it should provide areas to plant more trees. And I want to do something with geese and all this in there. And you see some earthworks here, and I should explain them. So what happens here is that soil is extremely compacted, like concrete, and it took the excavator of the backhoe quite some effort to loosen this up. And I'm basically digging this over like I would in a garden bed. But you see, even now after this rain, how this looks like. These pieces there, they are very compact. By hand, you can't separate them. This is just like a concrete block. The backhoe can, but it needs doing. Without that, the trees probably have a very hard time. And that is why also, in order to set these fence posts, we need to dig. We can't use the auger. We tried. We can get maybe 10-15 centimeters deep, and then we hit a concrete plate. And there's nothing we can do. So we dig, and at the same time, we are now preparing this for the new trees that I want to set here. We will see how they perform in comparison to these two. Trees are strong, but I want them to establish well during the first year, so that they're already 2.50 meters tall when autumn comes around. I did this in a different way there, but here, as I am digging anyway, I also can do this as a precaution. And that way, I definitely have a control group, because I can then compare how these trees will do versus them over there. And despite the fact that there is water, this has no effect here. The concrete still develops, which is totally normal for this region we are in. This is not deep soil that will hold moisture and all this. This is a different animal. Probably because of the history this whole place has. But then you can also see there's a lot of stone and a lot of minerals and pretty no organic content. Little bits of pieces that you see here, this is from the grasses that were on top, the first 5 centimeters. And everything else is free of organic matter. This changes over time, of course, but for that you need plants, and the plants need to be able to root and have water, and so you have that cycle. Now, where I'm walking, it is soft because of that rain, but it's just the surface. Well, here you see more stones and more difficulties. And by the way, you might hear the generator in the background. So the irrigation requires a lot of energy. And our air conditioning in the house also, but the irrigation is twice the energy consumption than our air conditioning. So we are definitely short on solar power. We need to increase our production. And once we did that, we then increase our battery capacity. So there is absolutely no way that we could irrigate at night, because we simply don't have the energy for it. Something that I should mention here and there, because people assume we are grid powered, and we are completely off grid. So what we have is what we have, and what we can generate is what we have, or else there will be darkness. So now I am here. Feels very soft and nice because of the rain. And you see these pioneer plants, they are coming up again. So let's find the first, see, there is the first watermelon, and it looks very nice. So let's be careful where I step. I think, yeah, here. There's another one, there's another one. They are now looking nice, and they have grown bigger. That one there The one that you have in the center now there. No, that's actually, I'm confused. So that was the first one. And over there is the next one. They got very, very big. So now we are talking watermelons. That is very good. And the one that I thought we might have lost, this guy here, is also making new leaves. So I'm happy. The different nozzle for the wobbler is working out well. Yeah, you see how this looks like? So, crisis averted. So, we are in good shape. 9%, I think it was in the very beginning, and then 16 is just not enough. But now we are in the normal range, like 19. Probably now this rain shower bumped it up again. I irrigated earlier, so now this works. And we had other watermelons here before. We had a drip line that had a mini sprinkler in it. But of course I want to use the wobblers to also help the soil around. And of course the other things, they are also growing here. But as the watermelons will spread out and cover all this, they will then also cover all the other things. So this is so far good. We have a success once we eat watermelon. And of course we will have a lot of watermelons. And I guess we will share them with the pigs too, because they also like this. So there is the sensor. I might actually be able to push it in a bit. So a centimeter more. It's now a little bit better stuck in the soil. It is measuring at least 10 centimeters depth, which is okay. I doubted a little bit that these trees might not have come back, but they have. All of them. So I thought the one to the right were dead, but you see, there are new leaves. And the other two also have leaves. And the one there. The only thing it has not shown up yet is this one here, and this might be dead. But the others are well. Of course, this one here made new trunks, and the old one got abandoned. But that's what they do. They stick around. This is not for wood. That would be a disaster. But to have them and their big leaves for shade and biomass, that's the right tree. It's a chop and drop tree. There are others that people use, but I do like them. They are easily available. They work well in this climate. And they need some help. And if they are managed for wood, then you also have a product. While the other trees that people use for chop and drop, there is no wood product. That is a potential outcome. But with these you have both. So I very much like this type of tree. And what is also worth noting is that everything around is dry and dormant now. So this is winter. There's no snow. It is extremely hot, but it is the dead part of the year. During the other 3 seasons, there's life. But during summer, not much happens, except in little islands here and there. And we are now one of these islands, because we have the irrigation and we do different things, and it's bearing fruit. We have a lot of butterflies because of the flowers, lots of insects, therefore a lot of birds. It's chirping all over the place. And where nothing is being done just yet, of course, it looks the same way as around. One area at a time. And then it will change. And that is why my focus is now on this side. So this area there, between the trees. Of course, it's also related to the 7 pigs. They will eat the acorns in this area first. And that might already be it, because they're just 7. But the goal is to get this area nice and well managed in this new way that I envision, so that things eventually come together as I always thought they should. Getting there just takes a little bit of patience and perseverance. And of course it's important not to run out of funds, but that's not a big issue as long as I can do my IT work. But of course the velocity varies a little bit. And I think I will also, over time, get more tools so that I can do many things myself, and with 1 or 2 helpers occasionally. And of course, then there are visitors who can also help if they want to. It's also greatly appreciated, like the visiting carpenter that is who is currently here. And then all this will work out. There's new plants coming up. Of course, with this camera I cannot zoom in, but you see there is something new. Maybe I can come a little bit closer. Yeah, so this is the same as we have in the wannabe food forest behind me. And somehow it found enough moisture there to exist. And that's what I mentioned. We create an area that's nice and healthy, and then this will cross-pollinate over to the adjacent areas. So more of this plant is there in the center. Yeah, the center swale basically, or the center berm actually, because the swale is left and right. So let me walk you quickly there. You see, there's a lot more of them, these white flowers. And I'm sorry that this is the extreme wide angle camera. I intended to show you something else, but I guess you can still make it out. So all these flowers there, they are new. We did not have them last year. I have no idea what they are, but it's some sort of a pioneer species. And speaking about, so what I learned is, the Dehesa as it is basically being kept at a very early stage of the natural succession and then managed by grazing. The downside is that a little bit more shade would be good. But then what gets in the way is the need to produce. And therefore the animals eat everything. And then step by step it goes backward. Because people need to sell animals and produce animals. It's understandable. I'm not blaming anyone. This is a consequence of circumstances. Before, when I did transhumans, the animals left this area during summer, and therefore the pressure wasn't there. They took them to cooler parts of Spain, the very same people. But now this is different, and therefore the pressure is. And the pressure exists for who knows how many decades. But that means for this year, I need also to manage the natural succession and somehow start suppressing all this with something else so that we come closer to a forest. And I think the way to do this is by adding a lot more Paulownia trees. That's the next thing, probably at the end of next week. That's going to happen in order to have more shade, and more shade means that now all these, which are in fact pioneer species, will then be replaced by something else. And before that, and without animals grazing, I don't have to think about something like lavender or other ground cover, because this will always win. Yeah, this thrives when the other plants cannot exist because it's too cold, and then they have been outshaded and are dead. So I learned this by reading and also with the practical example of just this very same area here. These Paulownia trees are very interesting. So this is here in the future dog enclosure, and I am cutting away things, but I just learned that I need to be very careful. Look at this, look at that, here, there, and over there, and there's another one, and there's another one. So somehow they are sprouting out of the root system of the tree. Must be this one. This one has not achieved this yet, but as I started further down, there was also a surprise, and they go very fast, because 2 weeks ago that was not here. You see, there's a big one, and there's another one right next to it, and over there there's multiple trunks. So the same tree somehow is making clones of itself. Might also be from this one, but this one seems dead, but maybe it's not the case. So maybe they belong to that tree or to the one there. So this is very interesting, and as I want them to have, as I wanted these to be here for shade, this is a very pleasant surprise. And it is summer, and I'm using the string trimmer in Andalusia. Gives me giggles, because this is not very common. But it's thanks to the irrigation. And I almost cut this one here, and then I noticed that there are more. So I need to be very, very careful and move slow. I can't sweep here with my tool, because I will cut away young trees. Of course, this is not what you want in a plantation for wood. I keep saying this. But here in this case, as this is all for shade, this is just great. Of course, these guys here are a little bit in the wrong place, I have to admit, because this is supposed to be a door. And they will then block the entrance. So far, it was not a problem, because there's a path here. But we will see. But for now, they're all welcome. And later we can thin them out. The Bermuda grass with the heat is also coming back and conquering the place. I will cut this down a little bit so that it continues to grow. There's some movement in the grass. This is all the frogs that will then go over there. They like to sit in the grass during the heat. They're not all the time in the water. And over here, where I will be cutting. Let's explore. It looks like that these trees, they did not. Well, there is a trunk that comes out of the root system. Those are the branches that one would break away or cut away in order to have a clean trunk if this were a commercial plantation. Let's see if there's something. So far, I don't see any of it. It's those further to the right. Well, this is just regular stuff. And of course the understory is great, and I'm not trying to reduce this too much, just a little bit, so that it continues to grow. Well, there is one, right there, in between the other things. So I think I need to leave this alone, because I might chop off the head of these things there, but that's all I can do. As you can see, this is getting denser and denser, and there's a lot of shade and coolness in there, so that's good. And as I keep saying, I have come to appreciate these Paulownia trees as a tool. And yes, you guys keep asking the question. Yeah, certainly, I should take some cuttings and see if they will make roots, and that way I have my own clones. Right now it's pretty convenient to just order a box of trees where someone else somehow did this. Of course, these Paulownias sellers, to put it that way, they show a lot of mystery and a lab and things like that, but I think, I haven't researched this, I think they're just using cuttings, and out there comes a new tree. But somehow you can't see it anymore, that this is from cuttings. But maybe the cuttings were very small, and therefore you can't see it when you get the box with the trees. But who knows, I should research this. It would be a very interesting thing. And now that I am here, the beach has emerged. So that water is getting lower and lower. There was some movement to the left. There was a frog. So you see. And the duckweed, Lemna, doesn't really like the heat. That is why past experiments always failed. But somehow the plant is there. You might remember that this was completely covered in green. And now this plant doesn't really like it. I guess we need some other plant that is more for the heat to also cover these ponds. I think some Asian things might work out well.